I wouldn't recommend this book to someone unless I wanted them to have a mental breakdown. Hey guys, I'm Lou, and in today's video I am going to be talking about all the books that I read in February. I read 8 books and 5 of those were manga. I'm slowly getting out of my reading slump and I'm really hoping that I don't regress. I will be working my way up to the 5-star reads of February. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. The first book that I'm going to be talking about is The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Trigger warnings in this book for sexual assault, domestic violence and attempted suicide. Before I went into this book, I heard that it was a messed up one and incredibly disturbing. I didn't quite believe it, especially because the plot of the book centers on this woman called Yongi, and she decides to become vegetarian one day after she had a dream, and then Yongi's life starts to go downhill quite drastically from that point onwards, from when she made that decision. The breakdown happens with the relationship she has with her husband, the relationship she has with her family, and it all leads to Yongi having a mental breakdown and being admitted to a psychiatric hospital. The plot of this book is split into 3 parts, as originally this book was published as a series of short stories. The first part is when Yongi decides to become a vegetarian, and it's from the perspective of her husband. I found that part to be the most interesting and the most gripping, and the husband was trash because we get to hear his thoughts and the things that he says and does. He was utter trash. The second part of the book is from the perspective of Yongi's brother-in-law, and that's the section where women are like really sexualized. If you hear people talking about the sexualization that happens within this book, it's because of the second part of the story. The third part of the book follows Yongi's sister, and that's when Yongi is admitted to the psychiatric hospital. I found this book to be really interesting because it was Yongi's life, but through the perspective of the people around her. Overall, The Vegetarian was a very interesting read. If I were to give a rating of this book solely on the craft and the writing, then it would be 4 out of 5 stars. However, I do take into account my enjoyment of the book when I rate books, and this book is not a pleasure read. So in the end, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't recommend this book to someone unless I wanted them to have a mental breakdown, or at least I would warn people that this book is dark, heavy, disturbing, unnerving. I do think that this would be an amazing book to analyze and study though. The next book that I read was Aurora Rising by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. This is the first book in the Aurora cycle. It's a young adult science fiction fantasy set in the future, and it follows Squad 312 as they have just graduated from Aurora Academy. They receive their first mission and they get involved in a conspiracy and a war millions of years in the making. I have been intrigued about this book, this series, ever since I heard about it, especially because I am such a massive fan of the Illuminae files, and when I heard that both authors were working together again for another young adult science fiction fantasy, I was on board. I was really intrigued. It just took me ages to get around to actually reading this book. I listened to the audiobook of this book and it was amazing. I would highly recommend it because it has a full cast of characters. All of their performances and the special effects were astounding. The plot of this book is good. It does start off really slow, but once the squad have received their first mission, that's when the plot starts to really increase in pace. And the ending is really heartbreakingly good. As soon as I got close to the ending, I looked up on my library app to see if it was available, and it was, and I started listening to book 2 before I had even finished doing my Goodreads review of book 1. The best thing about this book was definitely the characters. I liked getting to know them, learning about their story, investing my feelings in them and worrying about their safety. It's also really interesting because I think there's about 7 main characters and they have distinctive personality and traits, and I especially liked getting to know the alien species of the crew. I also liked the two romances in this book. Whilst the romances don't take center stage, I do think that they make the book more enjoyable. The romances is what made me really invested in this book and the series, so I can't wait to see what will happen. Overall, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would highly recommend it. I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook as well. The only downside is that I didn't enjoy this book as much as the Illuminae files, but I think you have to treat them as separate entities to truly appreciate this series. The next book that I read is Something to Talk About by Meryl Wilsner. Trigger warnings in this book for sexual assault. Something to Talk About is a female-female romance set in Hollywood between the rich and famous Jo and her assistant Emma. Jo is photographed with Emma laughing on the red carpet, and it sparks rumors about them dating. The scandal couldn't come at a worse time for the pair, as Jo is just about to start writing this big Hollywood superhero blockbuster, and Emma is looking to get a new job. As the gossip spreads, it affects all aspects of their personal lives, and as the two work together more and get to know each other, the rumours start to feel more like a reality. I thought that the romance in this book was cute. It was just really slow and prone to miscommunication. The main focus of this book was the main characters and the romance, but the downside is that the pair don't get together until 90% of the book. And if you're someone like me, when you read romances, you want the couple to get together somewhere sooner before the 90% mark. You want to see the characters as a couple as well as them being separate entities. And with this book, I do appreciate the fact that the author wants to write female-female romances, and that is what she is doing. However, I did feel like there was a slight injustice with a white author featuring one of the main characters being an older Asian female, specifically Chinese, especially with what Jo has to deal with in Hollywood. I do appreciate the representation of an Asian female in a female-female romance, but I do think an Asian author would have been better suited to talk about those things. However, that's not to say that I thought that the Asian representation was bad. I just thought that it would have been better if an Asian person talked about it, because there are a lot of things that were left out and could have been developed on. Overall, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend it if you're looking for a contemporary female-female romance. I just wouldn't necessarily recommend it too much because I do think that it's a book that's not necessarily memorable. However, this book did get me out of my reading slump. I think that was because I really enjoyed it, especially with my background in working in the film industry. The next 2 books that I read were volumes 2 and 3 of Love in Focus. It's a 3-volume shoujo high school romance series, which follows Moko, who has always had a passion for photography. Her childhood friend Ki encourages her to join his high school, live at his dorm, and participate in his photography club. During her time there, Moko gets intrigued by another person living in the dorm. I quite liked this high school love triangle series. I would solely recommend this series simply based on the fact that it's only 3 volumes and it's a quick, short, enjoyable read. I do think most people would like it, and it actually made me want to get more into photography. I ended up giving this manga series pretty much 4 out of 5 stars for all 3 volumes, but I only read 2 of them in February. The next book that I read was the first season of the manhwa series, The New Employee by Moscareto. It's based on the book by the same author. It's a male-male romance between one of the directors in an advertising company and the new intern. I really enjoyed the first season. I thought that the romance was cute. It just went from like really cute and sweet to really R-rated really quickly. The first half of the season we were spent getting to know the characters, and it was developing like a really cute romance, and then I eventually felt like I needed holy water for my eyes. With that being said though, I liked how it was a blend of romance but also the importance of work. I ended up giving the first series 4 out of 5 stars, and I am intrigued and I will definitely keep an eye out for new chapters and new seasons. The last 2 books that I read in February were rereads. It was volumes 2 and 3 of Cherry Magic, 30 Years of Virginity Can Make You a Wizard. I'm really going to struggle talking about this manga series again with a straight face. Cherry Magic follows Adachi, and on his 30th birthday he develops the superpower to read people's thoughts when they touch. In this manga world, at the age of 30, you develop this superpower if you're still a virgin. Adachi accidentally touches his popular co-worker Kurosawa one day, and he discovers that Kurosawa has had a crush on him, and the manga follows Adachi as he comes to terms with his new powers and Kurosawa's crush. I also ended up rewatching the live action Japanese adaptation of this series in February, and it was really interesting because I could make comparisons. It was because I was editing and subtitling my February TBR video that it made me really want to watch the TV series. So it was like I influenced myself. I brainwashed myself into watching the TV series, and I really enjoyed it. It was really interesting seeing the changes that the TV series has made, and I'm really intrigued to see what will happen in the manga because the TV series went really far ahead from where the manga stopped. I really enjoyed rereading the mangas, and it's definitely become one of my favourite manga series because of how funny and touching it is. I would definitely recommend both the manga and the TV show. The TV show is on Crunchyroll. I am definitely going to continue this series and I can't wait for more volumes to come out. I ended up giving both books 5 out of 5 stars again. So those were the books that I read in February. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Bye!